On our third wedding anniversary, my Ice Queen CEO wife handed me a set of divorce papers. Sign this. Consider the $50 million my final payment to you. On the outside, I was a picture of calm. On the inside, I was ecstatic. $50 million. I can finally retire and be a beach bum. Being the husband who married into the family was like doing hard time. I'm finally free. But then my cold, elegant wife suddenly shuddered, her beautiful eyes wide with shock. From that day on, she started looking at me strangely. She even ripped up the papers and refused to divorce me, no matter what. Chapter 1. The Divorce Papers. Sign it. Her voice, cool and crisp, echoed in the cavernous living room of the villa, carrying a tone that tolerated no argument. I looked up at the woman sitting across from me, Isabella Vance, my legal wife, and the infamous Ice Queen CEO of Apex City. Today was our third wedding anniversary. Her gift to me was a divorce agreement. For the past 3 years, as the man who married into the Vance family, you haven't contributed much, but you've at least stayed out of trouble. Isabella's voice was devoid of emotion, as if she were discussing a corporate matter that had nothing to do with her. Once you sign the agreement, the $50 million on this card is yours. After that, we're even. She pushed a document and a sleek, black onyx card across the table. I stared at the papers, my heart hammering against my ribs. But my face remained a mask of placid indifference, maybe even a little melancholic. If you're going to act, you have to commit to the role. I'd gotten used to it over the past 3 years. Marrying into the Vance family meant enduring constant scorn. My mother-in-law treated me like the hired help. My brother-in-law saw me as his personal ATM, and even a family dog dared to snarl at me. As for my so-called wife, besides the few words she'd speak when giving me my monthly allowance on the first, we were practically strangers. So why did I put up with it? Because her family was rich, and it was my one-way ticket to a life of comfortable, ambitionless coasting. But man, this prison sentence had dragged on for way too long. Now my parole had finally arrived. $50 million. Holy crap. $50 million. Duh. I'm rich. I'm finally, obscenely rich. I never have to kiss up to anyone ever again. With this money, I'll buy a private island. I'm talking board shorts and flip-flops every day, sipping ice-cold beers and watching the bikini-clad scenery. Not even heaven could be better than that. Oh, Isabella, you truly are my savior. Once I get the cash, I'm building a shrine to you. I'll even light some incense. Morning, noon, and night. My mind was a joyous hurricane, but on the surface, I just silently picked up the pen, ready to sign. The sooner I sign, the sooner I'm free. However, just as the tip of my pen was about to touch the paper, Isabella, the woman across from me, flinched violently. Her fingers clenched around her own fountain pen, knuckles turning white. For the first time, a storm of disbelief crashed through the calm pools of her eyes as she stared at me. Huh? What's with her reaction? Could she be having second thoughts? No, that's impossible. She's been dying to get rid of me. I molded over, my hand not pausing its movement. Wait, Isabella suddenly blurted out, her voice cracking. I looked up, feigning confusion. What's wrong, Izzy? Is $50 million too much? You know, you don't have to give me that much. Don't you dare, lady. Not a single penny less than 50 mil. That's my seed money for a life of doing absolutely nothing. If you try to back out, I'll grab your leg and start crying. Isabella's expression grew even stranger, her face flushing red and then pale. She stared at me, her eyes filled with a mix of probing curiosity, shock, and a sliver of confusion I couldn't decipher. She opened her mouth, seeming to want to say something, but then swallowed her words. What were you just thinking? She finally asked. My heart skipped a beat. What was I thinking? My island and my bikinis, obviously, but I couldn't say that out loud. I forced a bitter smile, my eyes welling up with fake tears. Nothing, just thinking about the last 3 years. You probably don't remember, but I still remember the first time we met. You were wearing a white dress. You looked like an angel. I began to channel the Oscar-worthy acting skills I had perfected over the last 3 years, my performance dripping with sincerity and heartfelt emotion. Sigh, my acting is so good, I'm almost convincing myself. As long as I can keep her steady and get her to hand over the money, I don't care if she was wearing a white dress or cargo shorts. I'd still say she looked beautiful. But Isabella looked like she had just heard the funniest thing in the world, but was trying desperately to hold it in. Her shoulders shook slightly, her gorgeous face turning crimson from the effort. Something's wrong. Something is very wrong. Isabella was acting like a completely different person today. She took a deep breath, forcibly suppressing the bizarre urge to laugh, and regained her Ice Queen composure. But the storm in her eyes was impossible to hide. "Ethan," she said, enunciating each word carefully, "this agreement. Let's sign it tomorrow." After speaking, as if fleeing the plague, she snatched up the agreement and the bank card and practically ran up the stairs, leaving me alone, utterly bewildered in the living room. "Sign it tomorrow? Why? A lot can happen in one night, lady. My 50 million. My island. My beaky. Ahem. My happy life." I wailed internally, collapsing onto the sofa in despair. Upstairs, leaning against her bedroom door, Isabella clutched her chest, gasping for breath. She was finally sure of one thing. Somehow, she could hear the inner thoughts of her useless husband, and the man in his head was a completely, utterly different person from the one she thought she knew. Chapter 2. The other side of a useless husband. The next morning, I came downstairs with dark circles under my eyes. I hadn't slept a wink, tossing and turning all night, dreaming of my $50 million. I was terrified that Isabella would wake up and change the 50 million to 5, which would be a massive loss. Isabella was already at the dining table, sipping a small glass of milk. When she saw me, her gaze flickered away for a second. "Morning," I said, pulling out a chair to sit down. "Stay right there." A sharp voice screeched from the kitchen. My mother-in-law, Karen Vance, emerged with a pot of oatmeal, shooting me a nasty look. "Who said you could eat at the table? Did you mop the floors? Did you feed the dog in the garden? Did you take Isabella's clothes to the dry cleaner? All you do all day is eat. Are we running a pigsty here at the Vance residence?" I clenched my fists, then relaxed them. Whatever. For $50 million, I could take it. This old hag. The first thing I'm doing when I get my money is smashing all your windows. Call me a pig? Have you ever seen a pig worth $50 million? A prize-winning hog isn't worth as much as me. I was roasting her in my head, but on my face was a humble smile. "I'll get right on it, Mom." Just as I was about to turn away, I heard a stifled "ft." I whipped my head around. Isabella was covering her mouth, her shoulders trembling. Her face was red with suppressed laughter, and her eyes held a mix of amusement and pity. I was stunned. What was she laughing at? I was getting chewed out by her mom, and she found it funny? Is this woman's heart made of stone? "Isabella, what's so funny?" Karen noticed her daughter's strange behavior and scolded her disapprovingly. "It's because you married this useless bum that I can't even hold my head up high in front of my friends." Ahem. Isabella quickly cleared her throat, her expression turning cold again. "Mom, that's enough. Let's eat." As she spoke, she surprisingly picked up an empty bowl, filled it with oatmeal, and placed it in front of me. "Sit down and eat." Now, not just me, but Karen too was completely floored. Did hell just freeze over? In 3 years, Isabella had never so much as glanced at me, let alone served me oatmeal. Karen opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but wilted under her daughter's icy glare and swallowed her words. Flattered and bewildered, I sat down and picked up the bowl. She's being nice for no reason. She must be up to something. Is she trying to trade this bowl of oatmeal for $1 million off my settlement? No way, absolutely not. A bowl of oatmeal is worth, what, $10? 50 million minus 10 is 49,999,990. Yep, not a penny less. Across the table, Isabella's hand, holding her glass of milk, started to tremble again. She quickly finished her milk and set the glass down. "I'm done. I'm heading to the office." "Sis, wait up." A young man dressed head to toe in hype beast brands, with hair dyed like a parrot, walked in. It was my brother-in-law, Isabella's younger brother, Kevin Vance. "Sis, my project is short about 500 grand. Can you wire me some more funds?" Kevin sidled up to her with a slimy grin. Isabella frowned. "Didn't I just give you $1 million last month? Come on, that's barely anything. Help me out, sis, please." Kevin started to whine. "Project? What a joke. You mean the esports team he started with his deadbeat friends? Of the million from last month, 300,000 went to a sports car, 200,000 was spent on some streamer girl, and the remaining 500,000 was probably blown at a nightclub. This kid is going to bankrupt the Vance family. But hey, not my problem. I'm out of here soon anyway. I continued to eat my oatmeal, calmly analyzing the situation in my head. Isabella's body suddenly went rigid. Her gaze, when she looked at Kevin, turned razor sharp. Kevin, be honest with me. Where did that $1 million actually go? Kevin's eyes darted around nervously. I went into the project, of course. Sis, you have to believe me. Really? Isabella sneered. Was it invested in a sports car? Or on a streamer? Kevin's face went white as a sheet. He looked at Isabella as if he'd seen a ghost. Seize. You. How did you know? Isabella didn't answer him. Instead, her gaze shifted to me. Her eyes seemed to say, and how did you know? Her stare was making my skin crawl. I quickly buried my head in my oatmeal bowl. Why are you looking at me? I don't have super hearing or x-ray vision. I was just making an educated guess. With a spoiled brat like him, you could figure it out with your eyes closed. Isabella slowly retracted her gaze, her expression more complex than ever. She took a deep breath and said coldly to Kevin, "From now on, you won't get another dime from the company. And that so-called project of yours? Shut it down. Now." With that, she grabbed her purse and, without another glance at us, strode out of the house, her heels clicking authoritatively, leaving behind a petrified Kevin and a very, very confused me. Chapter 3. Is this useless man a monster? Isabella was on edge all day. Sitting in her CEO office, she couldn't focus on a single document. Her mind was filled with the sound of Ethan's inner voice. Ol hag. Spoiled brat. 50 million. Private island. Bikinis. The words played on a loop in her head like a demonic chant. So, the man who was always so meek and subservient in front of her, the man who seemed humbled to the point of being dust, was secretly this. Smart Alec? And his pinpoint accuracy about where Kevin's money went was simply unbelievable. How could a useless man who stayed at home all day know everything so clearly? Knock, knock, knock. Her assistant entered, her face grim. Ms. Vance, we have a problem. The core data from our proposal for the Southside Waterfront Project bid has been leaked. Our competitor, Rexford Industries, has our bottom line numbers. What? Isabella's face paled, and she shot up from her chair. The Southside Project was the company's most important venture this year. If they lost it, the entire company's cash flow would be in jeopardy. Find out who did it. Now, she ordered. It was Vice President Leo Vance, the assistant stammered. Leo Vance, Isabella's cousin, and the one person in the company who was always trying to undermine her. Where is he now? He's already taken the proposal to Rexford Industries. Isabella trembled with rage, slamming her fist on the desk. She immediately called an emergency meeting with all senior executives. For the rest of the afternoon, a dark cloud hung over Vance Corporation. With the proposal leaked and their numbers exposed, the project was as good as lost, unless they could produce a brand new, vastly superior proposal overnight. But that was impossible. That evening, Isabella dragged her exhausted body home. In the living room, Ethan was lounging with his legs crossed, munching on an apple while playing poker on his phone. Full house. Huh. I win again. Seeing this, a fire of rage ignited within Isabella. The company was on the brink of collapse, and he had the nerve to sit here, playing games. Useless. He really was useless. Ethan, she couldn't help but shout. I jumped, nearly dropping my phone. What's wrong? I asked, looking at her thunderous expression, feeling a little nervous. Whoa, did she swallow a firecracker? She looks as dark as the bottom of a wok. Who'd tick her off? Was it that cousin of hers, Leo? Oh, right, I remember now. Today was supposed to be the critical day for the Southside Waterfront Project bid. Judging by her face, something definitely went wrong. Let me guess, the proposal was leaked? Or their funding fell through? TSK, that traitor Leo. I knew he was no good from the start. I told her grandfather 3 years ago that the guy was a wolf in sheep's clothing and couldn't be trusted. Too bad the old man didn't listen. Listening to the steady stream of commentary in her head, Isabella froze completely. How did he know again? And 3 years ago, he told her grandfather? Her grandfather had been retired due to illness for 3 years. He wasn't involved in the business anymore. Just how many secrets was this man hiding? An overwhelming sense of absurdity washed over her. Isabella looked at the man in front of her, lounging, feigning innocence, and for the first time felt like she couldn't see through him at all. On a strange impulse, she walked over, sat down beside him, and briefly explained what had happened at the company that day. She didn't even know why she was telling him this. Perhaps she just wanted to see what other shocking commentary her useless husband would come up with. After listening, I put on a show of frowning deeply. That's serious? Then, what are we going to do? What to do? Nothing to do. It's a lost cause. That CEO of Rexford Industries. His name is Dominic Rexford, right? Back in the day, overseas, I crushed him so badly he almost went bankrupt. He ended up kneeling before me, calling me sir, before I finally let him off the hook. He's gotten bold now, daring to mess with my wife's company? Whatever, not my problem. We're getting divorced anyway. If her company goes under, maybe I'll get a bigger piece of the inheritance. But wait, if the company goes bankrupt, does that mean my $50 million is gone? Crap, that can't happen. Absolutely not. At that thought, I shot up from the sofa. No, Isabella, your company cannot go under. I declared righteously, grabbing her hand with a look of desperation. Isabella was startled by my sudden movement, but what shocked her more was the deluge of information flooding her mind. Dominic Rexford knelt before him, calling him sir. Who in the world was Ethan Cross? Wasn't he just a dirt-poor kid from an orphanage? Do you have a plan? Isabella asked, her voice dry as she looked at me. I was stuck. What plan could I have? I couldn't just say that one phone call from me would make Dominic Rexford kneel again, could I? I've got it. I'll pretend to step out and make a call. I'll use my old Hades identity, which I haven't used in ages, and send Rexford a text message. That'll scare the hell out of him. That's the plan. Perfect. My eyes darted around, and an idea clicked into place. Isabella, don't worry. I know a guy, a friend with some unconventional connections. I'll have him have a chat with this Dominic Rexford. With that, I grabbed my phone and scurried out to the balcony. Isabella watched me go, her expression a whirlwind of complexity. A guy with unconventional connections? Have a chat? She watched the man on the balcony, pretending to make a call while his fingers were actually flying across the screen, typing out a text message. She suddenly felt that in the past 3 years, she had never truly known her husband. Was this useless man a monster? On the top floor of Rexford Industries, in the CEO's office, Dominic Rexford had his feet up on his desk, a cigar clamped between his fingers, a smug look on his face as he gazed at Leo Vance, who was practically bowing before him. Leo, you did good work this time, Rexford said, blowing a smoke ring. Once I swallow up Vance Corp, you'll be well rewarded. Thank you, Mr. Rexford. Thank you. Leo groveled, his face plastered with a sycophantic smile. That little witch Isabella Vance should have been kicked out long ago, and she keeps a useless husband around. It's the joke of Apex City. A useless husband. Rexford's interest was piqued. Yeah, name's Ethan Cross. An orphan who married into the family 3 years ago. Does nothing but live off her. Absolutely worthless. Ethan Cross. Rexford murmured the name, a slight frown creasing his brow. It sounded vaguely familiar, but just as quickly his brow smoothed out. What threat could a freeloader possibly pose? Just then his private phone buzzed. Only a handful of people had this number. He picked it up. It was a text from an unknown number. The message was simple, just 3 words. Guess who? Below the text was an image. It was a picture of a ring, a black signet ring, carved with a snarling, golden dragon's head. Boom! The moment he saw the ring, it was as if Rexford had been struck by lightning. He shot up from his chair. The cigar fell from his hand, burning a hole in the expensive carpet, but he didn't notice. His face turned deathly pale in an instant, cold sweat beading on his forehead. His body began to tremble uncontrollably. The Hades signet. It's him. The image of that man, the man who had been the stuff of his nightmares for a decade, resurfaced in his mind. Years ago, overseas, his business empire had been utterly and completely demolished by this man in just 3 days. He had used every connection, every ounce of power he had, but couldn't even touch a hair on the man's head. In the end, he had knelt like a dog before that man, begging for mercy, just to be allowed to survive. That man's code name was Hades, and the ring he wore was this one-of-a-kind Hades signet. How did he end up in Apex City? How does he know about this? Rexford felt like his heart was about to stop. And Mr. Rexford, what's wrong? Leo asked, startled by Rexford's reaction. Rexford ignored him, his trembling hands fumbling to type a reply. Is this Mr. Cross? He didn't dare use the code name, opting for the most respectful title he could think of. Out on the balcony, I saw the reply, and a small smile played on my lips. So you haven't forgotten? I slowly typed back 2 words. Southside. Buzz. Rexford's phone vibrated again. Seeing those 2 words shattered his last sliver of hope. Thud. His legs gave out, and he collapsed to the floor, his face ashen. It was over. It was all over. He had, in his ignorance, tried to take a piece of that man's pie. That man's surname was Cross, and Isabella Vance's useless husband was also named Cross. Ethan Cross. In a flash of insight, Dominic Rexford understood everything. What useless bum? What freeloader? That was a dragon playing in shallow water, a god walking among mortals. Mr. Rexford, what's wrong? Don't scare me. Leo was in a full-blown panic. Get out. Rexford jerked his head up, his eyes bloodshot like a cornered beast. He kicked Leo square in the stomach. Now, immediately, take the Vance Corp proposal and send it back untouched. And tomorrow, for the Southside waterfront plot, Rexford Industries is withdrawing its bid. From now on, if anyone dares to touch a single hair on Vance Corporation's head, I'll make their entire family disappear from Apex City. Rexford's voice was hoarse and crazed, filled with absolute terror. Leo rolled across the floor, clutching his stomach, staring in utter disbelief at the maniacal Dominic Rexford. He didn't understand. He didn't understand at all how a single text message could reduce this titan of industry to such a pathetic state. I put my phone away and casually strolled back into the living room. Isabella immediately stood up, looking at me anxiously. How did it go? What did your friend say? I yawned and plopped down on the sofa. It's handled. Yeah, you want to play games with me? He's probably wetting his pants right about now. Sigh, so tiring. Dealing with small fry like him isn't even a warm-up. My island and bikinis are way more interesting. Isabella, tomorrow. You have to sign the divorce papers tomorrow. My 50 million. Isabella listened to the smug, expectant voice in her head, then looked at the man in front of her, who wore an expression that said, I did my best. She felt as if the world had become surreal. Handled with a single phone call? She didn't believe it. But just then her phone rang. It was her assistant, Ms. Vance. Incredible news. The assistant's voice was so excited it was nearly breaking. Dominic Rexford from Rexford Industries just personally tied up that traitor Leo and delivered him to our building's doorstep. He also said he's pulling out of the Southside project, and he promised to never be an enemy of Vance Corp in the future. Isabella's mind went completely blank. She stood there, clutching her phone, stunned. Then, slowly, inch by inch, she turned her gaze to the man who was already lying on the sofa with his eyes closed, as if he had fallen asleep. Chapter 5. A challenge at the auction the next day at the Southside Waterfront Project bidding conference. Vance Corporation, with an absolute advantage, won the land plot without any suspense. The entire Apex City business community was shaken. No one could figure out why the confident Rexford Industries had withdrawn so hastily at the last second, as if they'd seen a ghost. After the meeting, Isabella didn't go back to the office. She went straight home. Right now, she only wanted to understand one thing. Who was Ethan Cross? However, she was disappointed. Ethan was in his usual lazy state, engrossed in a magazine. It was a copy of Global Traveler. The page he was looking at happened to feature a private island in the Maldives. This one looks nice. Good privacy, and the beach is big enough for my parties. It's a bit pricey, though. 30 million. Yeah, once I get to 50 million, spending 30 on an island still leaves me with 20 million. That's more than enough to live lavishly for the rest of my life. Isabella. She took a deep breath, fighting the urge to snatch the magazine and tear it to shreds. Ethan. I looked up, feigning ignorance. There's a charity auction tonight. You're coming with me, Isabella said, the words practically squeezed through her teeth. Huh? An auction? That's for rich people. What's a broke guy like me gonna do there? Just embarrass you? I waved my hands dismissively. Yes. Let's go. I have to go. There's bound to be good stuff at a place like that. Maybe I'll find a hidden gem, flip it for a profit, and add a little more to my personal stash. Hee hee. The wife has taken me out to see the world. I'm so excited. A vein throbbed in Isabella's temple. I said you're going, so you're going. Stop with the nonsense. She snapped before turning and walking away. She was afraid that if she stayed any longer, this man of infuriating contradictions would make her explode. That evening, at the Apex City International Convention Center, when I, dressed in a rented suit and with the radiant Isabella on my arm, walked into the hall, we instantly became the center of attention. Of course, all eyes were on Isabella. As for me, I was dismissed as her driver or bodyguard. Well, if it isn't Ms. Vance, why would you bring a servant to such an important event? A snide, sarcastic voice cut through the air. I turned to see a familiar face. Leo Vance. He was now standing next to a slick, greasy-looking young man. Though his face was still bruised, his arrogance hadn't diminished one bit. Lau, you still have a nerve to show your face here. Isabella's eyes turned glacial the moment she saw him. Why shouldn't I? Leo sneered, gesturing to the young man beside him. Let me introduce you. This is the young master of the Wagner family, Chad Wagner. I am now Mr. Wagner's assistant. Chad Wagner? I glanced at the guy. He looked like a total lightweight, hollowed out by booze and women. The Wagner family? The one that got rich making knockoffs. This Leo guy is something else. He just crawled out of one pit just to jump into another septic tank. But this Chad kid reminds me. His dad still owes me 80 grand from a poker game in Vegas. Isabella flinched slightly, and a look of pity entered her eyes as she glanced at Chad Wagner. Chad, completely oblivious, was shamelessly scanning Isabella from head to toe, his eyes glinting with greed. Ms. Vance, a pleasure. This useless husband of yours doesn't deserve you. Why don't you kick him to the curb and get with me? Chad grinned, revealing a set of yellowed teeth. Mr. Wagner, I suggest you show some respect. Isabella's face turned ashen. Respect. Chad laughed as if he'd heard the world's greatest joke. In Apex City, who do I, Chad Wagner, need to show respect to? The CEO of a nearly bankrupt company and her freeloader husband. He pointed at me arrogantly. Hey you, I'll give you 100 grand. Get lost and leave your wife to me. Everyone in the venue turned to watch, their faces filled with schadenfreude. Before I could speak, Isabella, trembling with rage, raised her hand to slap him. I caught her wrist. Don't be impulsive, honey. Assault is illegal. Besides, hitting a moron like this will only dirty your hands. The best way to deal with someone like this is to make him lose everything and kneel before you, begging for mercy. I pulled Isabella behind me and smiled at Chad Wagner. 100 grand? That's not nearly enough. Chad froze, then burst out laughing. What? Not enough? For a loser like you, 100 grand is generous. Fine, name your price. I held up one finger. 1 million. Chad scoffed. You've got some nerve. I shook my head. Not 1 million. I looked at him, my smile widening. I'm saying first, have your dad pay back the 80 grand he owes me. As for the rest, I'll give you a discount. We'll just round it up to an even million. Chapter 6. This is a monster. The moment my words fell, the entire auction hall plunged into a dead silence. Everyone stared at me like I was a fool. Chad Wagner was stunned for a full 3 seconds before he erupted into thunderous laughter. Ha ha! Did you hear that, Leo? This loser says my dad owes him money. 80,000. Ha ha! That's the best joke I've heard all year. Leo chimed in with a fawning laugh. Mr. Wagner, this guy must be broke and desperate for cash. The surrounding guests shook their heads, their gazes filled with contempt and mockery. Who is this guy? The Vance family's live-in son-in-law? Is he an idiot? He's done for in Apex City, talking to Chad Wagner like that. Poor Isabella Vance, stuck with such a train wreck for a husband. Isabella's face was pale. She tugged hard on my arm, trying to pull me away. Don't pull me. Honey, the show's just getting started. This idiot's son has no idea that his dad probably just got my text and is on his way here right now. 80 grand. Not a penny less. It'll be perfect for buying some furniture for my island. Isabella's movement stopped. She looked at my calm, almost expectant expression and heard the confident voice in her head. Her heart, surprisingly, settled. She chose to trust him. "Chad, you'd better call your father and ask him about it right now," Isabella said coldly. "Call my dad." Chad's laughter grew even wilder. "Over this loser? Is he even worthy?" Ring, ring. As if on cue, Chad's phone began to ring. He glanced at the caller ID, and the smile on his face instantly froze. "Dad!" A man's furious roar erupted from the other end of the line. "You little brat. Where are you right now? Did you piss off Mr. Cross?" Chad was bewildered. "Mr. Cross? Which Mr. Cross? Who else could it be?" "The Mr. Cross from the Vance family." "You son of a bitch. I owe Mr. Cross 80 grand from Vegas. Did you go and provoke him again? I'm telling you, if you dare offend Mr. Cross, I'll break your legs." Chad's expression shifted from arrogance to confusion, then to terror, and finally to a deathly pale. He stood clutching his phone, his body trembling uncontrollably as he looked up in disbelief at the man he had just been calling a loser. I offered him a friendly smile. "Mr. Wagner, do you believe me now?" Thud! Chad's legs gave out. The phone clattered to the floor, and he dropped to his knees. "And Mr. Cross, I was wrong. I was blind. I'm not human. Please, I'm begging you, spare me." He started frantically slapping his own face, the loud smacks echoing in the silent hall. Leo stood beside him, completely petrified, the blood drained from his face. The surrounding guests were all dumbfounded, their jaws on the floor. What was happening? A single phone call had made the arrogant young master of the Wagner family kneel and beg for mercy. This live-in son-in-law of the Vance family. What kind of god was he? All eyes were fixed on me, filled with shock, awe, and fear. I just gave the kneeling Chad a dismissive glance. TCH, so boring. He caved that easily. I thought I could have a little more fun with him. I pulled Isabella, who was still in a state of shock, and found us a seat as if nothing had just happened. Isabella followed me mechanically, her mind a chaotic mess. She looked at the man beside her. He was now casually flipping through the auction catalog, his profile looking almost unreal under the lights. Loser? Broke? No, this was a monster wearing human skin. Chapter 7. $1 for a national treasure. The auction officially began. The auctioneer passionately introduced one item after another, and the wealthy patrons in the audience raised their paddles. I was getting bored. What is this garbage? A fake painting by some famous artist, and they dare to ask for $500,000? That Qing Dynasty vase was clearly fired in a kiln last week, and they're calling it an antique from the Qianlong era? Who are they kidding? TSK, this bunch of rich folks. More money than sense. Isabella sat next to me, listening to my silent, relentless roasting of the auction items, and a small smile touched her lips. It was a strange feeling. It was as if the whole world was a ridiculous play, and only she and Ethan were the sane ones in the audience. Our next item is an ancient piece of jade from the western regions. Its shape is peculiar, and its age is unknown. The starting bid is $1. As the auctioneer finished, a wave of laughter rippled through the audience. Who would put a worthless rock up for auction? I had been dozing off, but the moment I saw that ancient jade, my eyes snapped open. It was a palm-sized, pitch-black, and utterly unremarkable stone, still caked with dirt. But to my eyes, this thing was more dazzling than a diamond. Holy crap! Holy crap! Is that the scepter of ages? Forged from a fallen star by the first emperor to unite the continents, inscribed with the words, "By the mandate of heaven, may my reign be long and prosperous." This is an artifact of immense power. How did it end up here? And being sold as a worthless rock. Jackpot. This is the real jackpot. If I sold this thing, I could buy a whole country, not just an island. My mind was roaring, and my breathing grew ragged with excitement. Isabella sensed my agitation and followed my gaze. A dark, lumpy rock? This is what he wanted? She was no expert in antiques, but even she could tell that thing had nothing to do with the word treasure. $1 going once. Any bids? The auctioneer asked perfunctorily, already preparing to declare it unsold. I'll take it. A quiet voice broke the silence. I raised my paddle. Swish. All eyes in the room turned to me once again. Someone snickered, and then the entire venue erupted in laughter. Ha ha! That idiot is spending $1 on a stupid rock. Does he actually think he's going to find some hidden treasure? The Vance family's son-in-law, truly one of a kind. Definitely something wrong with him. Even the auctioneer on stage was trying to hold back a laugh, looking at me as if I were a moron. Only Isabella, seeing the sparkle in my eyes and hearing the near-explosive excitement in my head, on a strange impulse, also raised her paddle. I bid $10. Her cool voice rang out. Me? I whipped my head around to look at her, my face a giant question mark. Honey, what are you doing? Why are you bidding against me? This is my scepter of ages. Mine. Don't mess this up. Isabella was so amused by my inner monologue that she almost laughed out loud. She put on a stern face and shot me a challenging look. I bid $11, I said through gritted teeth, raising my paddle again. $100, Isabella said, cool as a cucumber. 101. $10,000. 10,000 and oh. I stopped myself, almost leaping out of my chair. Holy crap. Honey, are you insane? You're spending $10,000 on this rock. Do you have too much money to burn? You little spendthrift. Fine, you buy it then. What's yours is mine, and what's mine is still mine anyway. Hearing that last line, a satisfied smile graced Isabella's lips. In the end, under the bewildered gazes of everyone present, Isabella bought the grimy black rock for the astronomical price of $10,000. After the auction, an elderly gentleman with gold-rimmed glasses and a scholarly air quickly walked up to us. Ms. Vance, Mr. Cross, may I have a word? I recognized him. He was Professor Alastair Finch, the most renowned antiques appraiser in Apex City. Well, the expert has arrived. He must have realized this thing is special. Want to buy it? Too late. This was a gift from my wife. Isabella, with me in tow, followed Professor Finch to a VIP room backstage. Mr. Cross, Professor Finch began, his eyes burning with intensity as he stared at the rock cradled in Isabella's hands. How did you recognize the origin of this scepter? He used the word scepter directly. Isabella's heart skipped a beat. She looked down at the rock in her hands in disbelief. This was actually a treasure? What scepter? Professor, you must be mistaken. This is just a worthless rock, I said, playing dumb. No, I can't be mistaken. Professor Finch exclaimed, rubbing his hands together in excitement. It's covered in a special kind of volcanic ash, which shields it from any modern detection methods. But its shape, its texture, if I'm not mistaken, this is the legendary scepter of ages, lost for nearly 1,000 years. Boom! Isabella's mind completely exploded. The scepter of ages? She spent $10,000 on the scepter of ages? She stared at me blankly. I, in turn, was looking at the rock in her hands with a staged expression of shock. Honey, you've hit the jackpot. If my wife hits the jackpot, I hit the jackpot. My island, my yacht, my bikini parties. Here I come. Isabella looked at my greedy, money-obsessed expression and finally couldn't hold it in any longer. She burst out laughing, a laugh that was like a blooming flower, utterly captivating and beautiful. Chapter 8. Is my husband a god? On the way back from the auction, Isabella felt like she was floating. She sat in the car, clutching the box containing the scepter of ages, feeling like she was in a dream. Every so often, she would sneak a glance at Ethan, who was resting with his eyes closed beside her. The shocks this man had delivered, one after another, were becoming too much for her heart to handle. Useless? Could a man who made the CEO of Rexford Industries kneel in terror, who forced the young master of the Wagner family to slap himself in public, and who could spot a legendary artifact in a pile of junk, possibly be useless? If he was useless, then what did that make everyone else in the world? Si, what should I do with this scepter? Turn it over to the government? I'd probably get a $500 reward and a certificate. What a ripoff. Keep it for myself? It's not like I can sleep with it every night. Maybe I could find a chance to sell it to some clueless overseas museum, get a few $billion for it. That's a good idea. Let's do that. Isabella listened to the frantic calculations happening in Ethan's head and didn't know whether to be angry or amused. Did this man think about anything other than money? The car just pulled up to the villa when they saw Karen waiting anxiously by the door. The moment they got out, Karen rushed over and grabbed Isabella. Isabella, it's terrible. Your brother has been taken. What? Isabella's face changed. Taken by who? Who else? It was that Chad Wagner. He said we offended him. So he kidnapped Kevin and is demanding $10 million for his return. Otherwise, he'll kill him. What are we going to do? Karen was so frantic she was in tears. Isabella's expression turned grim. Chad Wagner again. Where is he now? At the abandoned factory on the outskirts of the city. Isabella, you have to save your brother. You're the only sister he has. Isabella was panicking too, instinctively reaching for her phone to call the police. Don't call the police, I said suddenly. All eyes turned to me. What's the point? Do we really need to bother the police with such a trivial matter? I yawned, looking as if I had just woken up. This Chad Wagner kid is as stubborn as a cockroach. He was just on his knees begging for mercy, and now he's kidnapping my brother-in-law. Looks like he didn't learn his lesson last time. All right, I was bored anyway. This can be my after-dinner exercise. I took out my phone and casually dialed a number. It was Chad's father, Big Rick Wagner. The call connected almost immediately. And Mr. Cross. What can I do for you? On the other end, Big Rick's voice was filled with humility and fear. Your son kidnapped my brother-in-law, I said flatly. WH what? Big Rick's voice cracked with terror and rage. That little monster. How dare he? Mr. Cross, please rest assured. I'll go and get him back for you right now. No need, I interrupted. Just tell me the address. I'll handle the rest myself. After hanging up, I put my phone back in my pocket and said to the stunned Isabella and Karen, let's go. Time to pick him up. Karen looked at me in disbelief. You think one phone call is enough? What else? I retorted. This old hag. Who is she looking down on? With one phone call, your son-in-law can make this entire city tremble. Do you believe me? Isabella heard this incredibly bold inner thought, and her heart began to race. She looked at the man before her, and suddenly felt as if he were glowing. Is my husband a god? Chapter 9. The man your boss calls boss is just my lackey on the outskirts of the city in an abandoned factory. Kevin Vance was tied up and thrown on the ground, his face bruised and swollen. He had clearly taken a beating. Chad Wagner sat across from him with his legs crossed, a look of vengeful pleasure on his face. You son of a bitch, you made me kneel? If I don't kill you today, my name isn't Wagner. Chad, man, I was wrong. It was all my brother-in-law. It had nothing to do with me. Kevin pleaded, his face streaked with tears. Your brother-in-law? Chad sneered. That loser. I'll deal with him sooner or later. Once I get my 10 million, I'll hire someone to dump him in the river. Bang! The factory door was kicked open. I strolled in casually, my hands in my pockets. Behind me were a pale-faced Isabella and Karen. Well, speak of the devil. Seeing me, Chad wasn't scared at all. In fact, he laughed. He stood up and clapped his hands. Shuffle, shuffle. From the shadows of the factory, 20 or 30 burly men holding steel pipes emerged, surrounding us. Loser? Actually dare to come? Perfect. Saves me the trouble of finding you. Chad grinned menacingly. Today, I'll send your whole family off together. Karen's legs turned to jelly, and she collapsed to the ground. Isabella also clenched her fists nervously, but looking at my calm back, she felt a strange sense of peace. Is this it? 30 grunts and wannabes, and they think they can challenge me? I remember a time I faced a mercenary army of over 1,000 men, and it felt like a walk in the park. Sigh, this is boring. So boring. I sighed and took a step forward. Chad, I'm giving you one last chance. Let him go, break your own legs, and get out of Apex City. Otherwise, you'll face the consequences. Ha ha. Chad laughed as if he'd heard the funniest joke in the world. Consequences? You think you can threaten me? Boys, get them. Kill the man. And as for the women. He didn't get to finish his sentence. Stop. A terrified roar came from outside the door. Big Rick Wagner came stumbling in. When he saw the scene, he looked like he was about to have a heart attack. Dad, what are you doing here? Just watch how I take care of this. Smack. Big Rick rushed forward and slapped Chad so hard across the face that he was stunned into silence. You ungrateful brat. You animal. Are you trying to destroy our family? Big Rick pointed at him, trembling with rage. Then, to everyone's astonishment, he turned towards me and, with a thud, dropped to his knees. Mr. Cross, I failed as a father. Please, I'm begging you, be the bigger man and spare us. Chad was completely dumbfounded. The 30-odd thugs were also dumbfounded. Their boss's boss, the famous tycoon Big Rick Wagner, was kneeling to this young man. You're begging for mercy now? I sneered. Too late. I didn't look at him again. Instead, I turned to the leader of the thugs, a bald man with a scar on his face. What's your name? My name is Scar. The man stammered, intimidated by my presence. Your boss is Manny Costello, right? How do you know that? Scar was shocked. Manny, the bull Costello, was the king of the Apex City underworld. How could this young man know his name? I didn't answer. I just dialed Manny's number. The call was answered on the first ring, and a deeply respectful voice came through. Boss, you finally decided to call me. Manny, I said calmly, your men are about to break my legs. There were 3 seconds of silence on the other end. Then, an earth-shattering roar erupted. Which blind idiot? Scar. I'll kill him. Boss, where are you? I'm on my way. I'll cripple him myself. I had the phone on speaker. The terrifying roar echoed throughout the factory. Scar's face turned as white as a sheet. He dropped to his knees with a thud and started banging his head on the floor. Boss, I was wrong. I was blind. Please spare my life. The other thugs, terrified out of their wits, dropped their pipes and fell to their knees in unison. The entire factory, except for me, Isabella, and the still stunned Karen and Kevin, was filled with kneeling men. The silence was deafening. I walked over to Kevin, untied his ropes, and patted his cheek. Try to be smarter from now on. Then, I took the hand of the still petrified Isabella and turned to leave. The entire time, I never once glanced back at the kneeling crowd, as if they were nothing more than ants beneath my feet. Chapter 10. Honey, let me explain. Back at the villa, the atmosphere was incredibly strange. Karen and Kevin stared at me as if I were a monster, huddled in a corner, too scared to even breathe loudly. Isabella sat on the sofa, silent, just staring at me with an intensely complex expression. It was a mixture of shock, curiosity, scrutiny, and a hint of admiration. Her gaze made me uncomfortable. What are you looking at? Haven't you seen a handsome guy before? Sigh. I accidentally showed off again. Now it's getting harder to hide my identity. Is my dream of a lazy, ambitionless life about to slip away? No, I have to think of a way to bluff my way through this. I cleared my throat and decided to take the initiative. So, Isabella, let me explain. Okay, I'm listening, Isabella said, crossing her arms and looking at me expectantly. Well, you see, that guy Manny Costello, he's actually my distant cousin. I saved his life when we were kids, so that's why he's so respectful to me. Yes, that's it. I spouted nonsense with a perfectly straight face. I'm a genius. This excuse is flawless. If Manny dares to say otherwise, I'll make him disappear from Apex City. Isabella heard my smug inner thoughts and almost burst out laughing. Distant cousin? How did he even come up with that? If Manny Costello heard himself being called a distant cousin, he'd probably cry himself to sleep. Is that so? Isabella deliberately drew out her words. And what about Big Rick Wagner? Is he a distant relative too? Well, I was stumped. Crap, I forgot about him. Big Rick Wagner. I've got it. I'll just say he's my long-lost godson. Yes, a godson I adopted during my travels. He's a godson I took in a while back, I said, forcing myself to stick to the story. Isabella finally couldn't hold it in anymore. She burst out laughing, bending over and clutching her sides, tears welling up in her eyes. Her laughter was like a melting glacier, a field of blooming flowers. It was so beautiful it left me a little stunned. In 3 years, it was the first time I had ever seen her laugh so freely. Ethan, oh Ethan, your ability to spin a tale is truly world-class, she said, wiping a tear from the corner of her eye, her gaze full of amusement. My face flushed. Did she figure something out? Impossible. My acting is perfect. Isabella stood up, walked over to me, and stood on her tiptoes, her hand gently caressing my face. Her touch was light and soft, filled with a tenderness I had never felt from her before. 3 years ago, why did you agree to marry into our family? She asked softly, her beautiful eyes fixed on mine. That question caught me off guard. Why? What other reason could there be? 3 years ago, I had grown tired of the endless scheming and backstabbing overseas. I'd washed my hands of it all, wanting to find a quiet place to live out the rest of my days. As it happened, my late mentor's only dying wish was for me to take care of his granddaughter, Isabella. So, I hid my identity and came to Apex City, marrying into the Vance family as a penniless orphan. I had intended to protect her for a lifetime, but instead, her whole family had treated me like dirt. Of course, I couldn't say any of that. The past is the past. It was all to keep a promise and look after you, you silly girl. And what do I get for it? You give me the cold shoulder every day, and now you want to divorce me. My heart is broken, utterly shattered. Hearing my inner thoughts, Isabella's body trembled, and her eyes instantly turned red. So that was the reason. He wasn't after the money. He wasn't trying to climb the social ladder. He did it all for a promise, to protect her, willingly hiding his identity and enduring 3 years of humiliation. And how had she treated him all this time? With indifference, contempt, and even trying to pay him off with $50 million. In that moment, an overwhelming wave of regret and guilt washed over her. She looked at the man before her, the man who had silently given her 3 years of his life, only to have his heart broken by her. She couldn't control her emotions any longer. I am sorry. She threw herself into my arms, hugging me tightly as she began to sob. I'm sorry. Ethan, I was so wrong. I was completely thrown by her sudden action, my body stiffening in her embrace. Hey, what are you crying for? Don't hug me. We need to maintain some personal space. And don't get your tears and snot on my suit. This thing is a rental. I'll have to pay for damages. Chapter 11. The agreement ripped. Isabella cried for a long time. It was as if she was releasing all the frustrations, misunderstandings, and newfound regret from the past 3 years. I stood there rigidly, letting her hold me, my mind a complete blank. What's with this woman? I just had a few inner thoughts. Is it really enough to make her cry like this? Could it be she can actually hear my thoughts? For the first time, a ridiculous idea popped into my head. I decided to test it. Red light, green light, 1, 2, 3. In my arms, Isabella's sobbing stopped, and her body went completely still. Holy crap, she can actually hear me? I felt like I had been struck by lightning. I was completely dumbfounded. No wonder her behavior had been so bizarre lately. No wonder she knew about Kevin wasting the money. No wonder she bid against me for the scepter of ages. All this time, I had been emotionally naked in front of her. It's over. I'm so screwed. Doesn't that mean she knows all about my grand dreams of islands, yachts, and bikinis? And all the times, I called her mom an old hag and her brother a spoiled brat. Am I still going to get my $50 million? At that thought, I felt tears welling up in my own eyes. Isabella lifted her head. Her beautiful eyes were red and swollen from crying, like a rabbit's. She saw my look of utter despair and heard my tragic internal wail. She didn't know whether to feel sorry for me or laugh. Your $50 million is gone, she said, her voice still thick with emotion. Boom! My world collapsed. And no, that's not. I panicked, tried to explain myself incoherently. Isabella, listen to me. I was just making all that up. I don't actually want an island or bikinis. What I love most is our family, our home. My money, my life. Without $50 million, I'm no different from actual salted fish. Seeing me practically jumping out of my skin with anxiety, Isabella finally couldn't help but let out a small laugh. She took the divorce agreement, the document I'd been dreaming of, out of her purse. My eyes instantly lit up. Isabella, are you? Right before my eyes, Isabella tore the $50 million agreement into tiny pieces. Then, she tossed them into the air. The confetti rained down like a snowfall of despair. My heart shattered right along with it. Ethan, Isabella said, looking at me with an unprecedented firmness in her eyes, the divorce is off. From now on, you're not going anywhere. She stood on her tiptoes and, to my complete astonishment, gently pressed her lips against mine. It was a cool, soft kiss with a faint, salty taste of her tears. I was completely and utterly stunned. What is happening? My $50 million is gone, and I've been forcibly kissed? Did I win or lose here? Actually, I don't think I lost. I felt the softness of her lips, my mind a chaotic mess. In the corner, Karen and Kevin were completely petrified. What were they seeing? Their Ice Queen daughter/sister was actually kissing that loser? This world had gone completely mad. Chapter 12. The Mother-in-Law's 180. After that night, my status in the Vance household changed dramatically. The next morning, I was still sound asleep when a loud knock startled me awake. "Ethan, my dear son-in-law, time to get up for breakfast." Outside the door, Karen's voice was so enthusiastic it gave me goosebumps. I shot up in bed. "Dear son-in-law, what was this old hag planning now?" I opened the door to see Karen holding a bowl of a steaming green smoothie, her face wrinkled into a wide smile. "Son-in-law, I blended this for you myself. Here, drink it while it's fresh. It's good for you." She thrust the bowl into my hands and affectionately pulled me towards the dining room. The table was laden with all sorts of breakfast foods, more lavish than a five-star hotel buffet. Kevin, the spoiled brat, was also acting out of character. He stood obediently by the table, and when he saw me, he immediately bowed his head. "Morning, bro-in-law. Please have a seat." He eagerly pulled out a chair for me and even handed me a fork. Me? Have these two lost their minds? One's calling me dear son-in-law. The other's calling me bro-in-law. Weren't they calling me a useless bum and wanting to kill me just yesterday? Huh. So predictable. Across the table, Isabella was elegantly sipping her coffee. Seeing my dumbfounded expression, the corners of her lips curved up slightly. She was clearly in a good mood. "Mom, Kevin, what's all this?" I asked, pretending to be confused. "Oh, my dear son-in-law." Karen slapped her thigh. "It was my fault for being so blind before. I didn't realize you were a hidden dragon. Please, you're a big man. Don't hold a grudge against your old mom." Yeah, bro-in-law." Kevin chimed in eagerly. "It was all my fault before. You're my idol now. From now on, I'll follow you." I watched this mother-son duo's performance and almost burst out laughing. "Follow me? I can't carry dead weight like you. And a hidden dragon? If I were a real dragon, the first thing I'd do is breathe fire on you, old hag." Karen and Kevin's smiles faltered for a second as they heard my inner thoughts, but they quickly returned to their fawning expressions. "Ethan, you see, about that Southside project, could you let Kevin get involved? Let him learn a thing or two from you?" Karen asked tentatively. "Yeah, bro-in-law. I promise I'll work hard. I won't let you down." Before I could say anything, Isabella spoke up coldly. "Mom, stay out of company business from now on. As for Kevin, if he wants to join the company, fine. He can start at the bottom, in sales. When he actually produces results, then we can talk about other things." Kevin's face instantly fell. Karen wanted to protest, but one icy glare from Isabella shut her up. I was secretly thrilled. "That's my wife. You tell him. That's exactly how you need to handle them." Isabella felt my support, and her mood improved even more. She put down her coffee cup and said to me, "You're coming with me somewhere today." "Where to?" "City Hall." I sprayed the mouthful of smoothie I had just taken. "City Hall. Holy crap. She still wants the divorce. Is there still hope for my 50 million? I shot up from my chair excitedly. Isabella rolled her eyes at me. "What are you thinking about? We got our marriage license in such a rush 3 years ago. We never even took a good photo. We're going to retake it." My heart plummeted from heaven to hell in an instant. Sigh, got my hopes up for nothing. My life is a beach bum. It's drifting further and further away. Chapter 13. All I want is to be a beach bum. A few days later, at Vance Corporation's celebration gala, Isabella, with my arm in hers, appeared before all the guests in a display of unity that was more high-profile than ever before. "Everyone, I'd like to introduce you to my husband, Ethan Cross," she announced, her voice echoing clearly through the ballroom. "He is also the majority shareholder of Vance Corporation." Boom! Her words sent shockwaves through the crowd. The room erupted. "What? That live-in son-in-law is the majority shareholder? You've got to be kidding me. Has Isabella lost her mind? I heard he was the one who secured the Southside project. Even Dominic Rexford of Rexford Industries bows to him. And the Wagner family. I heard they went bankrupt overnight just for offending him." Whispers and murmurs spread like wildfire. I stood beside Isabella, a polite smile on my face, but inside I was screaming. "No, I'm not. I don't want to be the majority shareholder. All I want is to be a beach bum." Isabella, you tricked me. It turned out that just yesterday, without telling me, Isabella had transferred 60% of her shares directly into my name. By the time I found out, it was already a done deal. I felt like I had fallen into a sweet, inescapable trap. This woman would do anything to stop me from running away. Mr. Cross, a pleasure to finally meet you. Mr. Cross, we look forward to working with you in the future. A crowd of CEOs I had never seen before swarmed around me, holding champagne flutes and plastering fake smiles on their faces. I had no choice but to play along, making empty small talk. This is so annoying. A bunch of old foxes. Stop trying to get close to me. I don't know you. I just want to go home and play video games. Beside me, Isabella heard my inner monologue and smiled like a cat that had gotten the cream. She wanted everyone to know that Ethan Cross was her man, and no one should even think about trying to poach him. Halfway through the party, an unexpected guest appeared. It was Leo. He looked even more haggard and defeated than the last time I saw him, like a stray dog. He broke through security and threw himself at my feet, dropping to his knees with a loud thud. Mr. Cross, boss, I was wrong. Please, I'm begging you, have mercy and let me live. He was a crying, sniveling mess, banging his head on the floor. After the Wagner family went bankrupt, he had become a social pariah, unable to find a job, forced to survive by digging through trash. I looked at him without a flicker of emotion. You reap what you sow. Pathetic people always have a hateful side, but just letting him disappear would be too easy. An idea sparked in my mind. I gave Manny Costello, who was standing nearby, a subtle look. Manny immediately understood. Someone, please escort Mr. Vance out. I happen to have a diamond mine in Sierra Leone that's in need of a supervisor. I think Mr. Vance would be a perfect fit. Sierra Leone? A diamond mine. A supervisor? The color drained from Leo's face. He knew his life was over. After dealing with Leo, I felt a wave of exhaustion. I pulled Isabella to a quiet corner. Honey, I'm tired. I'm really tired of this life of fighting and scheming, I said, looking at her sincerely. I don't want to be some Mr. Cross, and I don't want to be the majority shareholder. I just want to be your useless husband and quietly live my life as a beach bum. Isabella looked at me, at the genuine exhaustion in my eyes, and fell silent. She knew he was telling the truth. This man had stood at the top of the world for too long. He was truly tired. So, give me back the shares and let me take the money to buy my island. I promise I won't invite any other girls in bikinis. Only you. Really. I swear. Isabella. The flicker of emotion she had just felt instantly vanished. She gave me an exasperated look. In your dreams. Chapter 14. Return of the King? No, Return of the Beach Bum. After the gala, my position in Apex City became untouchable. The name, Mr. Cross, carried more weight than even the mayor's. But my life was veering further and further away from the track I had planned. Every day, all sorts of people try to find ways to get on my good side. They sent gifts, asked for favors. My doorstep was constantly crowded. It was driving me crazy. One day, I was sunbathing in the garden, trying to figure out how to escape this life, when my phone rang. It was an unknown international number. I answered it. Boss. A voice, trembling with excitement, came from the other end. It's me, Wraith. Wraith, one of my most capable former subordinates, in charge of my most secretive intelligence network. What is it? I asked calmly. Boss, you've been gone for 3 years. The guys miss you like crazy. We tracked you to Apex City. The Zodiac Council in Europe has been acting up lately. The guys are all hoping you'll come back and lead us to restore the glory of the Pantheon. The Pantheon? What's that? Some kind of LARPing club. And the Zodiac Council? Why not just call yourselves the Power Rangers? Go back. Go back to what? I finally get a few days of peace, and you wanted to go back to that? Whoever wants to deal with it can deal with it. I hung up without a second thought. Then block, delete, all in one smooth motion. Just as I put my phone down, I saw Isabella walking towards me with a plate of sliced fruit, a smile on her face. Honey, who was that? Telemarketer, I said, my face a perfect mask of innocence. Isabella held a piece of watermelon to my lips, a teasing smile playing on her face. Is that so? I thought I heard something about a pantheon and a Zodiac Council. Me? Does this woman have super hearing? How could she have heard that? It's over, it's over. My last secret is out. I looked into her eyes, which seemed to see right through me, and knew I couldn't hide it anymore. I sighed and told her everything. My former identity, my organization, and why I had walked away from it all. Isabella listened quietly, without interrupting. When I finished, she simply squeezed my hand gently. So you don't want to go back, right? I nodded forcefully. Right? I don't want to go back. I just want to be here with you. This time, I meant it with all my heart. Even without the 50 million, without the island. Being with her, it wasn't so bad. Isabella smiled, a sweet and genuine smile. Okay, then we won't go back. She leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, I'll support you from now on, my dear, useless husband. Hee, my wife will support me. Isn't that the beach bum life I've been dreaming of? Honey, I love you. The sun was warm. The breeze was gentle. I leaned back in my lounge chair, eating the fruit my wife was feeding me, feeling like I had reached the pinnacle of life. As for the Pantheon and the Zodiac Council, not my problem. Return of the King? No, it's the return of the beach bum. And this is the best life of all. Chapter 15. My life as a beach bum. The end. 1 year later. The Maldives, on a private island. I was wearing board shorts and sunglasses, lounging comfortably in a beach chair, sipping ice-cold coconut water. In the distance, Isabella, in a fiery red bikini, was playing in the surf. Her stunning figure even made the seagulls circle above. Ah, life. So simple, so unpretentious, and so boring. I sighed contentedly. This is the life. The absolute best. I've got money, I got free time, and I've got a beautiful wife. I wouldn't trade this for anything in the world. As if sensing my thoughts, Isabella turned around and gave me a smile that could topple nations. A year ago, at my strong insistence, Isabella finally agreed to hand over the company to a team of professional managers. Then, the two of us set off on a trip around the world. We watched the sunset from the Eiffel Tower, felt the breeze on the Aegean Sea, and saw the Great Migration on the African savanna. Finally, we bought this island. We were officially living the life of leisure I had always dreamed of. Honey, come on in. The water's amazing. Isabella waved to me. Coming. I tossed my coconut aside and dived into the crystal-clear water, swimming like a happy fish towards my queen. As for the Pantheon, after I blocked Wraith, he tried calling me from countless other numbers. Finally, I got fed up and gave their current leader an ultimatum. If anyone dares to disturb my peaceful life again, I will come back and cut all of your salaries. After that, my world became completely, blissfully quiet. Sun, sand, waves, and the woman I love. This was the ultimate destination I, Ethan Cross, had been searching for. I swam up to Isabella and hugged her from behind. Honey, I love you. I know, Isabella whispered, leaning back against me. I love you too. She paused for a moment, then added, but if I ever catch you thinking about other women in bikinis, I'm throwing you to the sharks. Me? My wife is the best. I swear my heart, my eyes, and my dreams are filled with only you. I held her tighter, making an eternal promise under the setting sun. The end.